Okay, I'm going to talk really quick about the nickname technique that I like to use with for learning. I'm going to basically say or explain why do I give a nickname to things. I think there's multiple reasons, but there's one kind of more important reason than a lot of them that I'm going to talk about. And that's that it makes it easier for me to come up with a mnemonic to build an association between things. So if with studying in medicine, there's a lot of like associations that I have to make where I have to remember that when I see one thing, I should think of another thing. Um, this equals this, and sometimes it's helpful to know the real reason why the things are associated, but sometimes if the reason is not known or if it's not very intuitive, I'm going to want a mnemonic to remember it, a made up reason basically. And it's easier to do that if I have like a more fun or creative name for the thing than the name that than the original name. So for instance, at the beginning of the third trimester of pregnancy, you're supposed to give Rogem. So if I'm trying to go about memorizing that, I can think, okay, I can try to connect the word three or the number three basically to Rogem. And it's kind of like not that helpful. It's kind of not that easy to do. I can try to connect the number 28 to Rogem because the beginning of the third trimester is at 28 weeks, right? That's what they actually say to do it. They say, give it at 28 weeks. Then I translate that to beginning of the third trimester because I find that easier to, hold in my head, thinking in trimesters instead of weeks. But still, that's not easy to connect to Rogem. What I've done is that to make it stand out in my mind more and make me think what is significant about this time period, I gave nicknames to the first and third trimester. The first trimester, I call it the dawn because it's the beginning. And the third trimester, I call it end game because it's the last. Because I already called it that, then when I had to learn this fact of Rogem, I could say, oh, if I have third trimester nickname as endgame, and then if I gave Rogem the nickname of Iron Man, then it's like, okay, now I have a cute little thing that's like memorable to me, where I can say it's like Avengers Endgame. That's when you give Iron Man. The other thing is the other nickname I have for the third trimester is exit strategy, because that's connecting a little more to not just the timing, but kind of the significance behind that timing. So since it's the last trimester of pregnancy, that's the time where you're kind of planning for when you're going to get the baby out. So you're building the baby's exit strategy. This is where you take into account factors like, how big the baby is and how hard it's going to be to get it out. But also, when the baby's sliding out, if there's like infections, right, microbes in the vaginal canal, when he slides out, he's going to be at risk to catch those infections when he's exiting through that canal. Or if there's like mom's antibodies are in there attacking him, then he's at risk to get attacked by those antibodies. That's how I imagine it anyways. So because of that antibody thing, that makes it make sense to me, like, okay, when we're planning our exit strategy, that's when we need to give Rogem to make sure that mom's antibodies don't attack the baby on his way out. So that's an example. I thought it was a good example of how, like, the nicknames, I think what's helpful about them is that it makes it easier to connect this term to another term, because my nickname of endgame or exit strategy is just more like juicier and has more to it than just a bland word like third trimester or 28 weeks. So not only can I think about like the rationale, but in cases where that doesn't work, it does work in this case. But in cases where it's not so easy to understand why exactly are these things associated, but I just have to memorize the association, In those cases, it's helpful to be able to just make up an association. Oh, it's because the Avengers Endgame has Iron Man in it. But I'm able to do that because I'm using a nickname for these terms rather than the actual terms.